I can't believe it's November already. And, you know, I've started looking at things I'd like to do as far as Christmas shopping.
It's time.
I've made the private list, but no matter how much I do that, December 23rd will come and I'll be out at Walmart and Target.
Not me.
Walmart has nothing anymore. They don't have anything anymore.
No.
That's actually kind of true.
And the Black Friday sales is like for 5 days at this point.
Well, I've already seen Black Friday sales.
See?
Like I've been getting emails for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, since
That's horrible.
October.
Yeah, for
The beginning of October.
That's
Black
horrible.
Friday.
Black Friday sales.
Don't even
So
think about Thanksgiving anymore.
it's not. Yeah, exactly. Thanksgiving's not a thing. Number one. But yeah, I mean, it's just like the routine. The good news is with the kids being older, I don't feel like I have to run around and do as much because it's like usually 1 or 2 big things I know they want, and I'll let the wife handle the knick-knack stuff because that's what she wants.
She got all the black Santas ready.
Them little trolls, you know, the demon Santas. They be. I swear, when I get up in the morning, they be in different spots than they were when I went to sleep. But she's gotten on this black Santa trip. Rose from the church encourages it. Has a massive collection.
She inspired me this year. I ordered some black Santa stuff.
Well, we'll start donating to you then, because I'm tired of it. I mean,
I got a cute tree skirt, and it's the black Santa, black angel. A whole 9 yards. It's cute.
well, after this election, it's gonna be Latino Santas everywhere.
No, they're not welcome.
Comedy. No.
I thought Trump
No,
was
Black
gonna send
Santa's
them
where the
all
money's at right now. They see everybody is so. I saw it last year. Now it's like Black Santa wrapping paper, Black Santa clothes and stuff. So it's just, and to me, I feel like it's exploitative because it used to be this unique thing that Black people would be proud to see, and some corporate person has decided, oh, they'll buy anything that looks like a Black Santa.
Right.
So here's where we're at. What's up? We good? Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Oh man,
Is it on mute right there?
we're not muted. No visuals. Can you hear us at home?
Hey, Elder Carter.
Yeah, we're good. I can hear. Dog, Mike. That's because Mike got that my phone he bought from the from the flea market. Not Temu. All right, y'all. Welcome to Religiously Incorrect Podcast. We just got a panic because we had an audio issue last week or the week before, and we were like, not again. Okay. And for those that don't know, we were doing that on purpose because we just started talking at the beginning. It's called a cold open. That's what it's called. It's called like a cold open, where you just start talking and then you bring in the visuals, you know. But that's what you get for trying to be fancy.
Well, then we was having problems with the audio, so it was a little longer.
Yeah,
than
we
usual.
wanted to be sure.
Is it introduction time?
Right. Well, welcome to Religiously Incorrect Podcast. Jason said you had a Shein phone. As you can see, I've got 2 fresh faces with us here.
Fresh face.
Oh.
Man, that's a compliment. Will you? All right, we're going to go to commercial real quick, and there's going to be a new fresh face. Welcome Mo back to the show. She's our guest co-host tonight. Yes, guest co-host.
That's what he say for now.
And welcome, everybody give it up for our guest tonight, Mr. Andre Clarke. He's going to be talking with us about Veterans Day, about service in the military as a Marine Corps veteran, and we might as well say it up front, it is the birthday of the Marine Corps, 249 years.
Hoorah.
And that's
Hoorah.
it, you know, and so representing, and we're glad to have you. But first things first, the African American Community Fund was established in 2020 at the Foundation for Appalachian, Ohio. They support Black-led and Black-serving organizations throughout the 32 counties of Appalachia, Ohio. To elevate the quality of life and address disparities in African American communities, you can check them out at appalachianohio.org/AACF or call 740-753-1111. And to that point, just to add on my own piece of the ad, the Appalachian Ohio Fund, the African American Community Fund, played a very important part in the restoration of the Second Baptist Chapel. They donated $10,000 in the last funding round to the restoration of our historic building. And we are very, very grateful that we were able to rededicate it and go into the chapel today after church. So thank you very much, Mr. Bynum, Elder Carter, and all of the other members of the committee who saw fit to award us those funds. Thank you so very much, and we appreciate it. But we all know what happened Tuesday.
Yeah.
And, I guess I'll just frame the question like this. Are you more or less shocked than you were the first time when it was Hillary?
I'm less shocked.
You're less shocked. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not shocked, just disappointed.
You're not shocked, you're disappointed.
Yes. It's like deep down, I feel like in most of our hearts, we kind of knew.
Kind of knew.
But it was just that little glimmer of hope that it wouldn't happen. I say what I'm shocked about most is the percentages of how people voted. It was, I just can't get into reading on it. My mind cannot literally wrap around how, I just can't.
I would say that I'm not shocked or disappointed as much as I'm just resigned to the reality. Like I'm resigned to the reality. And the reality for me is, and I think it's a product of our culture, I hate to be preachy about it, but we're the ones who have blunted ourselves to outrageousness and offensiveness to the point to where it does not matter over supposedly policy and, certain political values or promises. But then again, sometimes I'm not sure if it should, but definitely all the things that we're outraged, I think we have to just completely leave at the door that whole, I can't believe that they vote for a person who acts like this, talks like this, that, and the other. Like, we have to lay that down. Because I believe honestly, in our culture, there's a lot we tolerate.
Right.
We just don't like that it has met its extreme apex in this person through this political process. But we see it with our youth, the things we tolerate. We see it with, all sorts of public figures, behavior between human beings, communities. We just live in an age of outrageous behavior that is just blunted and almost like numbed our senses. So we're just upset that the one thing we are offended by, all these people aren't. But I'm like, and people, I don't even know if people are voting against their best interests. People keep saying, well, these Latinos voted against their best interests. I'm not sure if they did.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they did.
Me personally, I'm disappointed in not just the presidential election, even local. Like, we really went red across the board. Like, that was it.
Well, we've been red.
I know,
people
but
have been. Okay, I'm gonna tell you. For those of you that don't know, we're in Northeast Ohio.
Is that the redistricting of that?
Redistricting it in some way, but it's another bigger thing. A lot of these people have been red, but they went blue or ran blue because blue was the default party.
Right.
I serve with several people who have always been red, but blue gets you elected in Warren until you could just be red without getting attacked.
Right.
There were more people on your side publicly. Right. And so the first time a lot of people sort of came out, so to speak, did the whole secret ballot thing and went in there and voted a different way. And now you see where people's values are at. I will say one more thing that some people do not want to hear, and that is that what we think is outrageous in him, meaning Donald Trump, a lot of people also feel is incredibly outrageous with how liberal the Democratic Party has become in promoting certain values and things. And yes, it includes what we saw the commercials about, the transgender stuff, sexual ethics, whether or not you stand on that side or not, it's just too far for many people's sensibilities. And we don't want to admit it, especially if you are very supportive of those sensibilities, but it causes you to get blind to the fact that most people aren't. They just know it's not popular to say so, but they will vote that way. They can never get on Facebook and say, I'm anti this or anti that, but they can go in that voting booth and say it.
Exactly.
And they are. And I believe Democrats have become too liberal.
Right.
The larger party, which doesn't represent even the most Democrats, but because you got a Nancy Pelosi on the West Coast, and you got the East Coast ones, even those of us in the Midwest do not relate to that.
Yeah.
We have more conservative values, even as Democrats. Democrats, for an Ohio person, is more about working in a factory than it is gender issues. But they've made it more about gender issues.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not to say we all shouldn't have civil rights and all, but that's just not what resonates with the factory worker that hasn't had a good job in 30 years.
Right.
And so they feel like they've been left behind. And so I think we have to wake up to some of the realities. And I wish, you picked a person who had those very extreme views, and then she kind of came to the middle and it was already a late. Mm-hmm. And, if you're not going to invite, I mean, if a white woman can't do it, I don't know if a black woman can do it. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we should have tried to put women up against Trump either time.
No,
Sorry. Not yet.
I'm not sure if we should have put women up.
Not yet.
I'm not sure if we should have put women up against Trump.
Who would have been a better choice besides her at that time?
If we did a woman,
It's hard to say.
A woman, only Michelle Obama.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't
think so either.
I don't think a woman, but let alone a black woman, would have.
We keep going off of who's popular and to us.
Right.
And I add one more thing, since I like to talk politics a lot. I think we have to get off of two types of politics if you are leaning Democrat. And that is, number one, boogeyman politics, which is be scared of that guy, because not enough people are. And hype fame politics, where if you bring enough people on stage and do enough giant rallies and Beyonce shows up, or you get all these TikToks of famous people that, again, most of middle America don't like or relate to.
Right.
We keep going off this fandom and we forget that's not real life for everybody else. And we keep thinking, because that's what we keep saying, it doesn't add up. Look at all the cheering. Okay, but that's not voting.
Right.
It's not. So I feel like we have to get away from the boogeyman. Grover said The Rock would have won.
Also,
you might be right.
Also, what Jay said about issue 1, I was very disappointed in that as well. But when you read the verbiage on the ballot, if you didn't know, reading that, you were never going to know.
I don't think anybody actually read it.
When
they read the first few sentences,
I knew, like, I'm voting no.
I knew what it was. So because I knew what it was, I wanted to read it. If you don't know, you were going to read that and be like, what in the world is this?
They make it confusing on purpose.
Very confusing.
The Republican-dominated committee gets to vet the language and change it.
Yeah.
And that was our Secretary of State. And the committee they work with, they get to decide how it's worded. And they purposely put a lot of words in it because they know people don't read a lot of words. It was a whole page by itself.
It was.
Yeah.
And they get to kind of twist the wording. And Republicans just like, I got to give it to them.
Supposed to vote yes or no?
You're supposed to vote yes. You're supposed to vote yes.
Yes.
But because they're so slick, Republicans put out the exact same signs that Democrats did, and they said vote no in gerrymandering. So basically, they put a no vote as an end to gerrymandering because they knew and they knew that that's the phrase, in gerrymandering. So it's just kind of comedy in a way. And sometimes I just be sitting back like, man, I can't stand y'all, but y'all smart. Like, I can't stand y'all.
I said the same thing. I said the people behind Trump are very smart in how they presented Trump's issue.
I got a question.
Scott was a good one. Go ahead,
I got a question. Did you guys think the jokes went too far?
Which jokes?
What jokes?
After the election, like just all the joking.
I'm glad you brought it up. You mean on our part, like from our community?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought so too.
I think that one of the knocks against our community, the black community in particular, is that we don't take anything seriously. And I know it's a bit of a coping mechanism. I really do believe it's a coping mechanism. But you had people like making jokes about slavery like that night.
No, like literally.
Like at 9 o'clock, it was like, so where's the plantation we going to? You know, and I see stuff about abortion. Like it was really crass. I said it to a couple of friends. They were like, don't worry, y'all, you can still get abortions at my house. Like the stuff like, and so I'm like, and to me that scares me because I'm like, yeah, you're not really taking this seriously, and you probably don't even really know the issues. You just hear sound bites, and so it is all a joke to you in a way. And I feel like that also helps other people not take us seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, for me in the election, all the things that concerned me, none of it was addressed. Like the infrastructure of this country, the roads, the highways, the bridges, the educational system, the hospitals. None of that was even discussed or talked about at all.
The crazy thing is, though, is they did it and didn't sell it.
Yeah.
They did it. Biden did do the biggest infrastructure bill, which is why we've had the projects we even have in Warren.
Yeah.
That dam is a part of the infrastructure bill.
I didn't hear any of it.
That's the point. And so what I'm saying is we're sometimes, rah, historic black woman, this, that, and the other, which all it does is make some folk uneasy. That Democrats have been horrific at selling. There are, and even I've gotten in trouble for saying that in the church and in politics. I agree with you, but your arguments suck.
Right.
Your arguments are terrible. It does not resonate with the average person. I'm on your side, but I hate what you're saying and the way you present it. And so he did not sell, and it didn't help that Biden went through that season where he was just literally in a nursing home for a while, that he was not selling, and they were not selling what he did. Like, thank you, Pastor Glenn. It was on the sign, like, this is the infrastructure bill. But again, you have to pummel that.
Right.
And unfortunately, Trump's style really does pummel like 3-4 words over and over and over and over again. And we keep going on with the rambling, but the people who hear what they need to hear, and I want to say highlight what Scott just said, they're hearing what they not only say want to hear, but what they feel they need to hear, because you say you're not hearing it. And also, they're not dummies either. And that's been a big mistake. And Scott says, and he leans conservative, he says, stop saying uneducated, indoctrinated voters. Stop calling people dumb. And I get it, because I feel the same way. I talk about that in church. Stop calling people like they're just idiots for not being saved, or they're unsaved. They're not stupid. Don't say that. They don't agree with you. Now, are there people on both sides? And I believe simple-mindedness exists on both sides. There are people who are just rah-rah Kamala because she's D9.
Right.
And to me, that's just as foolish as being rah-rah Trump because he says, I'm going to deport people.
Right.
But we don't call the Democrats dummies for strolling to the polls and making it all about, and I don't want to disrespect, but I'm making it all about the fraternities and the sororities, but we'll call them dumb, for the red hats, for instance. You know what I mean? So, like, we got our mascots, and we don't hear ourselves talking like red hat, red hat, red hat. I'm like, all right, well, now it's just pink and green, and y'all running around doing these dances at all. That's not saying nothing either.
No, it's not.
So, Brother Stanley said, we must be better at researching the issues and the candidates. I don't know if we're ever going to do that.
Well, and the thing, I read what Stanley was talking about, and I was just like, I just got so exhausted with everything. My phone, I'm getting texts. I see it on TV. I was just like, I just want to get away from it. And I don't know if that's part of the strategy of them. It's like, okay, if we overwhelm them, you know what I mean? But I still voted, but I was just, it made me numb to the election process.
And then too, half of what they saying wasn't even true.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? They were just throwing stuff out there, man.
Yeah.
It was sticking.
Speaking of text messages, did anybody get the plantation text?
I didn't get it.
Well,
I seen it.
I definitely
Coach Wade told me his son got it.
That's so crazy.
So here's what I think. I think somebody got a hold of a phone list because they're all over the place during election seasons. I got a list. Like, literally, here's how I know. Because I kept getting a list from the NAACP, the national, which I'm a part of the national NAACP. Just want to make that clear. But because I'm a part of the national NAACP, they literally sent me a list. They said, would you please reach out to these people? And they sent me a list of their phone numbers in my text messages. Wow. And I recognized like 3 names right off the top. And so I'm sure there are people on these lists who shouldn't be on them, or who are jokesters or whatever, and probably took some of them, just plugged them into a fake phone number, which is easy to do, and sent these joke texts out. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to do. I mean, these stuff is floating everywhere. But it's crazy that I don't even say it's crazy. It's like I just started to tune it out. Here's the thing I'm most ticked off about. Now all of my favorite podcasts are dominated talking about this dude. Yeah. And I can't get away from all my favorite podcasts.
It's horrible. Yeah.
I just want to hear about what's going on in the world and which businesses are failing or whatever joke was going on. But now I got to hear about this all the time.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah.
We're going to hear about it for a long time.
Elon Musk and all that stuff. Yeah. So, listen, I hate to say it like this, and I know this is serious. And there will be people, and we've already heard it, and I know rights are at stake in all of this, but we're all still here. We all have to better ourselves, better our approach. I've been saying for years we have to challenge those who are Democrats, the Democratic Party, and people hate to hear this, but do real work to recalibrate all sides and make sure you have a voice no matter who's in charge. And I've been saying for a long time that there's a realignment going on. And I hope that whatever black people have been voting Republican, that you start giving yourself a real voice in that movement and perhaps pull them, because we've been through these massive changes before where unthinkable people have been elected and unthinkable shifts have happened amongst the electorate, particularly in the black electorate. And we weren't around. Older elders would have to tell us about what it was like when they were having these battles over Democrat and Republican in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, when a lot of our people were flipping from Republican to Democrat, from FDR to the 60s. Mm-hmm. Between FDR, for those that know your history, to JFK, and Lyndon Johnson, that was a huge shift. Mm-hmm. And then all the conservative Democrats went Republican mm-hmm. by the early 70s. They were called Dixiecrats. Mm-hmm. They were just as against Martin Luther King as what we would think the Republicans are now. The Southern Democrats were absolutely against civil rights and everything. So flips have happened before. My question is, what are we going to do with the flip? What are you going to do with it? Keep ranting and raving and make people the enemy? Or start pushing on the people that you know already have inroads in there?
But it started, with the Tea Party a long time ago. And when that Tea Party started and
I blame Sarah Palin. I blame Sarah Palin and the backlash to Obama.
Next thing you know, it just
when she made that speech, when they lost, and she made her own speech, mm-hmm. and then they started doing them marches on them pickup trucks, I was like, yeah, it's about to be a long-term problem.
Yep.
When you make your own flag, it's about to be a problem. Yep. Last time somebody made their own flag, we almost had two countries. Yeah. So, hey, y'all, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We know it's a heavy time, but we're going to try to lighten the load a little bit. But, what better way to do that than with the meme of the week?
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
Thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
We are. These are all jokes. We are just playing.
So I actually got scared that I'd already done this one. And I'm not sure if I had, because I see so many throughout the week and I forget which ones I've commented on. But I guess, like I was told by some older preachers when I asked them, do you guys, is it bad to repeat yourself, in the pulpit? And they literally said, if it's good enough to preach once, it's good enough to preach again. That's what they've always said. But this one reminds me of how I sometimes feel like I need to make comments at the end of service. If we still had night services, I'll qualify it. If we still had night services, this is what I would say if we were leaving church. Now, before Mike plays it, they're kind of like leaving service on a high note. So the pastor's just talking as they're leaving. They kind of, I guess they had a really, really great service. But I appreciate him giving them some wisdom on the way out the door. Go ahead, Mike.
You are dismissed. I'll see you at 10 a.m. Hug somebody. Walk on out. Don't linger. This is a bad neighborhood. Don't stay around. Take the glory in your car and get out of here.
So he's in Chicago, by the way. Yeah, he's in Chicago, by the way. Okay. So he's like, go straight to your cars. It's a bad neighborhood.
I would listen. If my pastor got up and said, don't linger.
Bro, I've had people tell me that. Like, we at church afterwards, he's like, yeah, you need to wait a minute. There's something going on outside. I'm like, all right. But I love it. I think his name is Bishop William Hudson. He's out of Chicago. He's known for saying funny stuff in the pulpit. But in this day and age, that's half the reason why churches don't have night services much anymore. Because the old folk, man, you gotta. Yeah. That's the main thing why we don't really do the New Year's Eve anymore. Because all the goofballs come out when all the church folk are going home and start shooting guns in the air.
Yeah.
And all the craziness. But I love Bishop William Hudson. He's hilarious. I was going to do a bunch of old school, just written memes. Jason said, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get out of this neighborhood. And have you ever went with your church somewhere to another church, and then you pull up outside and you be like,
wait a minute now. Put your finger up like, hold on.
You pull up outside the church, you're like, why the windows boarded up? Dogs barking.
I should second guess this, or what's going on?
Hey, here's how you know. No parking lot. Everybody got to park on the street. Yeah. Down the street and around the corner.
The pastor get up, you covered by the blood.
Right. Y'all praying extra hard tonight. And that's why hood churches be so loud, because they're trying to drown out outside. And it was so funny. I was at a church in Harlem a couple weeks ago, and it's one of them big old churches from the movies, right in the middle of Harlem, old fashioned. The doors open right to the street. And it's the whole service is the sirens, people outside screaming. I turned around. There was a dude like breakdancing in the back door. Like while the choir was singing, he just like popping and locking. Then he jumped on the floor and he was doing the word for a minute. And like nobody moved.
Like this was normal.
Yeah, that's just Jim. He comes in here, he breaks the mood and he leaves. You know, and I'm like, I couldn't do this. You know, because you literally were on the street. And when we got there, me and this mentor of mine, we got there and he's like, where are the pastors meeting? And she's like, across the street. So we get there, it's like, okay, we turn around and we look, and we see like this little door across the street, and it's like the bottom of one of those brownstones. You have to like go down steps, and you're like in this basement. And I'm like, how is this a church? What, this y'all fellowship hall? Like, what is this? But it was just crazy because you never know what you're pulling up on. And his church, and like this guy, if you notice, it was a very nice church, and that can be right in the middle of some of the worst places. You know, like this beautiful cathedral. As soon as you walk outside. But you know what? They do have the best security teams. And black churches, and my buddy down the street has one of them, are the only people that had them parking lot booths where old security guard sits in the parking lot and guards the cars. You can only find that in the black neighborhood.
They got Otis out there.
Otis out there watching over the Saints Cadillacs. My mom used to be like, put my purse under the seat.
Put it in the trunk.
Right. Well, if you have a meme you'd like to send in, you can email it to religiouslyincorrectpodcast@gmail.com, or you can inbox it to us. We try to get through them. We don't always get them up. Mo has complained on multiple occasions.
And now's my time to complain right here.
Oh, man.
Right here. I'm taking a stand.
We appreciate it. You can take a stand? That's hilarious. Well, no, we appreciate all of you guys. I want to thank our sponsors who help support Religiously Incorrect Podcast, the Phillips family of businesses, including Phillips Lawn Care. They've been in business for well over 10 years. You already know I got all kind of leaves in my house, and I'm not about to rake them up, so I might be calling them myself. But call them 330-219-7916. Not only do they do grass cutting, leaf removal, branch and tree removal, but they also do snow plowing, sidewalk clearing. Hit up my man Fernando. He'll get you right. And while you're at it, check out Phillips Care Cleaning Service. They do residential and commercial cleaning, move in, move out, floor cleaning, deep cleaning, and all types of renovations and repair work to your building, residential or commercial. Phillips Care, 330-219-7916, or look them up on Facebook at Phillips Care LLC. Planning the perfect event? Look no further at Annex Events. Keep getting it wrong. We've got everything you need to make your event unforgettable. From stunning tents, comfy chairs, and all the extras, we've got you covered. Super Bowl parties, graduation parties, corporate events, and of course, church banquets and anniversaries. We cater to all. Plus, our friendly team will handle the setup and breakdown so you can relax and enjoy the day. Call Annex Events and let's make your next celebration a hit. Mention the Religiously Incorrect Podcast and receive 10% off of your first rental. 330-979-2909. Or annexevents.com is where you can reach them. Thank you, Annex Events, for being a sponsor of Religiously Incorrect Podcast. And I do want to make it clear, our church has used Annex Events, and they did a phenomenal job for our church picnic and outdoor service, but that does not count as my first purchase. So when I call personally, I want my 10%. That's all I'm saying. Well, Mo is our guest host. Mo is a regular. We appreciate you being with us. Pastor Jeff is not sick or anything like that. He just had a quick little minor emergency at the house he had to take care of. A lot of rain, a lot of stuff going on, so he had to take care of some things. But love you, Jeff. Hope all is well with you. We know you had a great Sunday in church. But we have our special guest, Marine Corps veteran, Andre Clarke.
Hello.
And I almost said, maybe we can call this A Soldier Story, which is a classic movie.
Right.
But he quickly corrected me and said, I'm not a soldier. I'm a Marine. And that's partly of why we have you here.
Right.
So first of all, throw some virtual hand claps and hearts and likes and all that stuff up and welcome Brother Andre Clarke, a fine brother from our community. Spent years in coaching and serving our community and our youth for decades. He is also a proud member of Second Baptist Church, serves on our trustee board. He's a part of the golf crew. That has helped me catch the bug, got me out there in the driving range.
Out there a lot next year.
You know what? Just the other week when we had a nice day and Ethan was off, we went out to Old Avalon, and we were towards the end of the day, which I'd rather go when nobody's there. And we did 5 holes. We said, hey, can I just pay you for 5 holes before it gets dark?
Right.
And we had a good time, man. And he's actually doing very well.
Yeah.
I might get jealous because he's got it like natural. Like, he doesn't know how to swing wrong.
Right.
So he's just going
Just
at
out
it.
there. Yeah.
But I want to get out more, man. But y'all welcome Andre Clarke. Crystal's on. The wife is on. So welcome. We call this episode Semper Fi, which stands for...
Always faithful.
And what's the full phrase? Semper
Fidelis.
Semper Fidelis.
Yeah.
Always faithful. And we want to talk in honor of Veterans Day about what it means to serve in the Army, your journey, how you came to that place, maybe how it's impacted your life, how you feel it could be an impact for the youth, and the community, because we don't hear much about the Army as an option much.
Right.
Like we used to. I've started saying it more. Coach Mike, with his Game Changers organization, always makes that a part of his presentation when he's talking to youth about their futures. We just did a panel and he included a very phenomenal young lady from Boardman who has served in the armed forces and talking about making that an option, but also because our church just did a dedication of our chapel, right, and we like to honor our veterans as well. So I guess start us at the beginning. And we like the short version because we want to ask you questions. But how did you end up enlisting?
Well, I was in high school and Sister Osborne's son, Ruben.
Okay.
He and I were drafting in high school.
Okay.
And he was like, hey, let's go down and talk to the recruiter. And we'll tell him we don't want to join, and we'll go to the cafeteria and, do it,
Right.
So we went down and started talking to the recruiter, and he's like, all right, let's leave. And I was like, hold on a second. And he started telling me, hey, if you need discipline in your life and you want adventure and be able to travel and this and that. And I was like, man, that sounds good. And I decided to go down to the recruiting station and took the pre-ASVAB test. And, I scored pretty good. And I was like, well, I scored well enough to go to the Air Force. And he was like, well, just wait. And,
what kind of recruiter was it? Was it a Marine recruiter?
Yeah, it was a Marine recruiter.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was he African American?
No, he was a white guy.
Okay.
And he told me not everybody could do it. And he felt that I was one of the few, the proud, that could do it. And I was wrestling.
You see how you worked that commercial in?
The few, the proud, the Marines. And, I joined and got the shock treatment in boot camp.
Okay.
And that was crazy.
Right.
And after that, I went to school in 29 Palms, California.
Okay.
Comm Center operator, which I classified documents for the Commandant Marine Corps and the Pentagon.
So is that like an administrative situation or what do you call it? In communications.
Yeah. So then I did that and got stationed out in Pendleton. Got to go on a few cruises around the world and stuff, and did my last year in Okinawa, Japan, which was cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
How many years total did you end up serving?
I did 8 total.
Okay.
4 active, 4 reserve.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Gotcha. You mentioned that some of the things he said caught your ear, and you mentioned discipline, and that he was making that pitch. When I was coming up, I think the pitch was shifting a little bit of like, we'll pay for college, or, and I'm sure that stuff was said.
He told us that too. Like, I did have the GI Bill. And
right.
How can I put this? Warren at that time was, you had GM, you had Packard. You're going to work at GM, or you're going to work at Packard, or you're going to Republic Steel, or what was the other option? Republic Steel,
like GE.
Yeah, GE or something like
right.
that. And I was like, man, I'm ready to leave Warren.
I get it.
So when he gave me that option to get out, and I was like.
Did you feel you weren't college material? Did that play a part in it, or this was just a viable option beside college?
It was really never, I guess, wasn't really given. That wasn't an option for me.
We still weren't talking we weren't talking that language.
Yeah.
Now again, when I came along, like late 90s, 2000s, it was, they were beating us over the head with college. Everybody's talking about college. Nobody was telling us about debt, but they were talking about college. And a lot of us ended up in a whole lot of debt, or jumping into something we weren't prepared to follow through with necessarily. And so I don't know what it's like for college to not be like front-facing option like it is now. Because it really isn't. Now we're shifting again back to trades and other, types of things because my generation all got $100,000.
I was in, like I said, I was in vocational drafting, and I wanted to go to college to be an engineer. That was my childhood goal. I want to be an engineer, but
Rose said that's what hooked Chris, the school recruiter, and I was always impressed with the recruiters in the Army. I had two brothers that went, and I was always impressed with that crisp look and that disciplined look and all of that. When you looked at your situation, like where you wanted to be at in life, did you feel like this is a way I could get there, essentially?
You know what? Because I joined when I was 17.
Wow.
16 actually.
You can do it?
Well, I was in 11th grade when I was 16.
Okay.
Well, I was 16 about to turn 17.
Gotcha.
But it wasn't, I don't know. It was just like I was ready to. So
do you feel like, because of the way these recruiters come at most people, do you feel like they sold you a dream, or do you feel like it was reality when you got in?
It was reality. He didn't lie to me. Like he was like, "Oh, you're gonna do this and we're gonna do that." And then I get there like, this is not what he said.
Right. Is that a thing? Like, is that something that's known that some people?
Well, some people say that happens, but from my experience, it didn't happen. I mean, he was very honest. He said it's going to be tough. It's 13 weeks. Just keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, and do what they tell you.
Okay.
So tell us about that first 13 weeks.
Yeah, tell us about that. Yeah, that's where I was going. I want to know about the 13 weeks.
Well, he told me, he said, don't bring anything. Don't bring no clothes. Just come with what you got. So I wore a sweatshirt and sweatpants and a pair of tennis shoes. He told me to get a pair of tennis shoes. I got some New Balances.
Okay.
Come on now. But anyways,
see how things come back around.
Full circle.
Right, I went to Cleveland, and they sent us down to Beaufort, South Carolina. And it was the first time I got there. There was nobody in the airport. Nobody. So I don't know where they.
And that's by design, I can imagine.
I guess, but I was like, man, this first time I've been to the airport, nobody was in it. And you just see these two Marines walking towards you. And they start.
Look, I'm a Marine.
You're like, oh. But some people brung suitcases and everything. So they were trying to run with suitcases.
With the stuff they had. Oh, man.
I was like, well, so he told me the truth not to bring anything. And the first 2 days after we stepped on the yellow footprints, there was no sleep.
Wow.
No sleep. So we got our shots. I got to call home. Hey, Mom, I'm here. I'm okay. Then they shaved my head. They took my clothes, gave me fatigues, fit my boots. They did everything.
Were you scared during this process, or you were?
No, you were in shock because you'd never experienced something like that before. I mean, somebody's like literally, and you like, oh, gee,
right.
So
were the guys like crashing out, like they couldn't handle it, like the first few days?
You had a few, crash out.
Wow.
I was like, before I left though, I was 5'6", 120 pounds when I left for boot camp. And everybody, oh, you're not gonna make it. Marine's too tough for you. And in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna prove all of them wrong.
Wow.
So when I graduated boot camp in 13 weeks, I came home. I was 5'10", 165 pounds.
Wow.
So I put on 45 pounds and grew 4 inches.
I should have went to the
Marines. 3 months.
Yeah. I thought about just the military period, but the Marines specifically. I have people who I know are in the Marines, and they say it's like no place for a woman. Is that true?
That's tough because in 1985, I would say it was no place for a woman.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
With everything, because the Marine Corps is not the Marine Corps I went through. Because I think men and women train together now. Mm-hmm. They did have women in the Marine Corps when I was there, but they were 4th Battalion. I was in 1st Battalion, so you didn't get to see them.
Right.
And I did in boot camp, like after we had to do mess duty, and the women came in from the rifle range, but they made us keep our head down while they came through the lines for food and stuff.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying? But now I think it's a little bit different.
Right.
But my wife would tell you that I didn't want her to join the military because when I met her, she was actually enlisted to go to the Army.
Really?
And I told her no.
Really?
Yeah, I said don't do it. Yeah.
You told her that too.
Yeah, she still gives me grief about that.
Well, it's definitely a culture all its own, and there are a lot of things that go on.
I saw a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I was just like, I cared about her, and I was like, I don't think you should go through that.
I had a sister figure in my life that went through the Army, and the things that she shared in that time, and that was like mid-90s, like late 90s, and it was like, all right, that stuff is real. Like the stuff that's come out, obviously, and it's a good thing it comes out, because it needs to. But that was definitely, a real experience for a lot of females. So you said, it's funny because the way I view life, and of course the way our society is going, everything you're mentioning about what you went through, especially in those first 13 weeks, is the kind of stuff that a lot of us would think, I know a lot of young men that need that.
I myself think that every student after they graduate high school, because they do it in Israel, they have to.
That is true. It is true. Every single the IDF. That is true.
After they get out of high school, and I think that we should do that in this country. I think everybody should go to the military for 2 years.
I think there should at least be a reservist
every
situation.
Every male, every female, every child after they graduate.
I would
high
definitely
school.
say every male.
I would say every
male.
I don't know about every female.
But you're correct. It gives a different sense of service. Obviously, fidelity to the country. They look at guns differently. I've been over there, so I'm familiar with that. Matter of fact, I hate that things went so haywire because I bought IDF T-shirts when I came home, but then after a couple of years of things going really left, technically right over there with the military, like I wouldn't let my kids wear them. I bought all my kids because now it's a political statement, But that they, of course, that's a whole different society. Everybody's walking around with Uzis. Ain't nobody shooting each other over pop cans. You know what I mean? None of that stuff is happening. Right. And because they've all been taught to handle these things, they understand the severity of it right away, as opposed to these kids just walking around like we've all seen recently, being very flippant. But just on the discipline side, now, how did you feel about your support from your family and your community, your friends, your classmates? It was good because, I got a lot of letters. It wasn't like I wasn't getting correspondence from home. We didn't have, the technology that we have today. Okay. So it was all handwritten letters. So I'm writing everyone like, hey, I'm... handwritten letters?
Yeah.
I just want to be talking to people. I got the right to talk to you.
Yeah. And I got, people send you cookies and stuff like that. So
I thought y'all weren't allowed to get cookies and candy.
You can, because I was there during Christmas.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? So
now, was that boot camp or was that after boot camp?
It was boot camp.
So boot camp, you can still get a few things.
Yeah, I was there for Thanksgiving. I was there for Christmas, New Year's, and I graduated.
That was a terrible strategy, bro. I mean,
you know what? It wasn't. When I joined, I wasn't thinking.
You weren't even thinking about the timeline and when you're gonna go.
Because actually, I was because. They said, don't go in the summertime to Paris Island because of the sand fleas.
Okay.
Yeah, so they said, you go later in the year, the sand fleas are gone. But they were still there when I got there in November.
Wow.
But they weren't bad. December, January.
I just read that.
This guy said every male sounds very Republican. Yeah, it does. And so Marlon makes the point that boot camp is very different from when we went. Mm-hmm. They can bring cell phones and more now. So you're probably one of the more traditional Marines and veterans. Do all y'all feel like the new Army is soft?
I haven't really interacted with a lot of, what they do now.
Okay.
My experiences and the people that I deal with, like KJ.
Oh, yeah.
Coach Johnson, he was in the Marines too, my best friend. He actually told me, he said, mention this parallel line for enlistment for, your 4-year term. And he said, your first year is boot camp is like your freshman year of high school.
Okay. Of high school.
Except you're getting yelled at off a bus
right.
Well,
in the middle of the night.
Your first,
have you been a freshman lately?
Right. And then when we go to MOS school where I told you I went to 29 Palms in California. Okay. It's like your sophomore year. And then your first permanent duty station is like your junior year. Okay. And then, when you re-enlist in 4 years. Okay. It's like you're a senior in high school. Okay. So
And you're running the
that's
show,
your
kinda.
timeline, and that's how fast it goes. So I don't know. It's hard to like kind of explain, but the experiences I got, traveling to 25 countries.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
kids don't get that opportunity. I've been to Africa, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia,
Wow.
Singapore, Thailand.
Now these are just I'm on a base. I'm assigned to this base for a season, or is there certain missions you were on, or
it depends. Like when I first went to Korea and Thailand for Gallon Eagle, Cobra Goat, like you have certain.
you're saying words we don't know what we're talking
Yeah, I
about.
know.
So what are we talking about here?
certain deployments that you do for training and stuff. And when you go to these places, like I got stationed in California, and then they said, "Oh, we're going to Korea for 30 days." So, first time flying 18 hours in the plane.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
And this is a military plane.
Yeah, it was a commercial plane.
Oh, so it was a commercial plane.
Yeah, so it's like the plane that we flew on was like a double-decker plane. Like it was civilians on top and the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Military was on the bottom. You know what I mean? So it was like a huge plane. But it took us like 18 hours to get over there.
Right.
And then, coming back, I got to go to Hawaii and see, stuff like that. So it was cool. Got to go to Panama.
When you go to these places, do you actually get to experience? Like, do you get time to go experience that country? So you do get a chance to get out and amongst.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I just want to sway a little bit, and I have a question. When you were in the Marines, I don't know, like, what the proper rankings is or whatnot, how many black males in high rankings did you come across, like,
In the
your
military?
time? Yeah.
A lot.
Was it a lot?
Well, here's the thing. The military, the Marine Corps is majority white.
Okay.
So probably, I'd say it's probably 70-30 at the time while I was in. It was maybe 70-30, maybe 65-35.
Okay.
And the black leadership that you had kind of tried to guide you in the right direction. Hey, you got to move this way, you got to move that way. So it kind of taught you how to communicate with different types of people. You know what I mean? So I met white people who never seen a real black person until they got to the military.
How did they act when they seen you?
Did that create problems?
No, I mean, it was like the only time I saw black people, because they don't know how to talk to you.
Right.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the only time I saw black people was on TV. Like on Good Times, Dynamite.
No.
You know
How did you handle that?
Like, but you're looking at them like, but then you see
Not Dynamite.
you see black people who the only time they interact with white people was on TV. They never saw white people
They're saying the
before.
same thing.
You know what I'm saying? So it goes both ways. So you see how people interact with people. That's why I say that's why people should go to the military, just to get that experience,
the interaction,
to be able to deal with different types of people.
Rose wanted you to talk about the Crucible. I
didn't do the Crucible.
You didn't do the Crucible?
No, that's that new Marine Corps stuff.
That's the new Marine Corps?
Well, what we did was when I was there, we called it. I'm trying to think what it was called. KJ and them did. I can't say the word, but it's Mount Mother.
Bad word. Gotcha.
So it's a big mountain in California.
Okay.
He's a Hollywood Marine. He went to
Hollywood Marine.
Hollywood.
He went to boot camp in Hollywood Squares.
He went to boot camp in California. So I went to Paris Island. So we had right before third phase, you have to go through. It's not the Crucible, but it was similar. We have to go through like days of like combat training. And they had the staging area where we were at. They said they had hooch monsters out there. So they said, don't take any food in your tent because the hooch monster is going to get you. And you go, what is a hooch monster? It's a big raccoon.
Oh.
And it's probably as big as a German Shepherd. Like it's a big raccoon in South Carolina. They would go into your tent to get your food if you left it in there. So you don't leave your food in there.
So did you ever have somebody put their hands on you?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, my drill instructor smacked me.
Oh, and you had to just stand there and take it, huh?
Stood there and took it. Because like you're in a barracks and one of the guys his name was Pierce. I still remember it.
Yeah.
And he was right across, and I'm looking, drill instructor's in my face, and he's behind, like Marsha is right there doing this.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, you think I'm funny? Pow!
Wow.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I just had to take it.
How hard was that?
It was hard. Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, but it was cool.
That's
That's
but you took it.
Yeah, I mean, I deserved it. I was.
You did. Oh,
So
they
what
really
made
weren't.
you laugh?
That's
But see,
mentally in your mind.
But see, that's something that, and just your response right there, that's something that our society cannot fathom. But this is also the era of corporal punishment.
Right.
This is the era, and let's go all the way back 35 minutes to this liberal conversation. Mm-hmm. I believe that's what happens when you pull all of that away, trying to be protective and catch up with the times. You take all of it away to a point to where I'm sure there are guys going into the Army with this mentality, you can't touch me.
Yeah.
And they're right in a way, but again, that might change the dynamic.
Actually, it started right when I think they stopped letting drill instructors touch recruits probably a couple years after I did that because drill instructors got out of control.
Okay. Yeah. And I can see it. I mean, I can see it. Definitely there's a power dynamic.
We were getting ready to go, similar to the Crucible, what Sister Rose was talking about. And it was a guy, he couldn't get his stuff together, and the drill instructor picked up his Kevlar helmet and slammed it on his foot.
Wow.
Right before a 10-mile march that we had to do the next.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So it's just like...
Yeah.
Like at that point, does that even prove a lesson, or are you just being excessive?
That was excessive.
What happens to a Marine who just can't keep up? Do they just beat him until he can?
You'll get recycled. And I was just talking about this. I broke my foot probably, I don't know if it broke or it was severely sprained 2 weeks before I graduated.
All right.
And if I would have went to BAS, they would have recycled me. Now, mind you, I'm on 11 weeks.
What does that mean?
That means I would have to go back to second phase, which is 4 weeks.
Wow.
So I would go back to
start again.
Start again at 4 weeks to get back to where I was at. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. So I slept with my boot on for a week so I wouldn't get so I wouldn't get recycled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now the Marines are tougher than the other branches as far as the training.
Man, you about to start something, bro.
Stuff like that.
You'll say yes.
You know what? I wouldn't even say that we're tougher, but there's more expected from the Marines than any other brand.
Right, because like if something break out, you guys are the first to go, right?
First one is.
They say we're the first one in and the last one out.
Right.
But I mean, it really depends on the type of conflict it is, because it could be a Navy SEAL going in first, a SEAL team, or it could be Army Rangers going in first, or some type of special force team. But we're normally the front line of setting, securing the beaches and and everything like that. So,
Wow. What's the biggest misconceptions that people get about the military from the movies? And that is just totally, I mean, because I'm, of course, we was raised on that Full Metal Jacket.
Sergeant Powell.
Raised on Armageddon. What's that? Apocalypse Now. Right. We was raised on that stuff. It's like, what's the biggest misconceptions you think that people have from like the Hollywood side or just the pop culture?
For me, it's kind of, we didn't have video games and all that stuff like that. So we were outside playing Army anyways and running through the woods and doing all kind of things like that. So when I went to boot camp, I wouldn't say it was easy. I would say I've done this already.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So any misconception,
you just couldn't stop doing it.
Right.
It's the real thing.
This is what I was doing anyway.
Right. And I can relate to that because I say often, I'm probably part of the last generation that, we literally spent crawling up under logs and going, we're playing bear crawl in the woods and stuff.
So
coming in,
when they're showing you how to do it, you was like, oh man, I've been doing this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't that bad.
Okay, Kim has one. He says the biggest misconception that you shoot your weapon all the time.
Yeah.
So that you're just always shooting and got guns and. So what is it then if you're not? Is it more like just drills and routines and completing tasks every day?
Well, you have to qualify every year.
Okay.
So out of you can from 250 to 220, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, KJ. You're expert. And then from 219 to 205, or 200, you're a sharpshooter. Okay. And anything below that, we call it toilet bowl or marksman.
Hey, my dad was a marksman.
So
I was about to be proud of him and all until you said that. My dad was a marksman.
Right. Yeah, but so we shoot maybe you when you're NCO, then you get to shoot your pistol.
Okay.
You get pistol qualified, and depending on your MOS. And since I was like a comm center operator, I had to have a pistol on me because I was in the comm center, so I had to qualify with a pistol and a rifle. Okay. So I think I shot my weapon maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
So you don't shoot them all the time.
Did you ever have to be in combat and actually use your?
No.
Okay.
So, question. So, what would you say to somebody nowadays, with the world we live in? Like, I'm not fighting for a country who doesn't even, they're not for us. That's one of the biggest things you hear. I'm not fighting for a flag for a country that's not for black people. What do you say to that?
Well, black people have been fighting for this country like that, and the country's never been for them for a long time.
True.
So, I mean, for anyone to say that is kind of a slap in the face to the people who've done it. You know what I mean? It's really not about the country. Mm-hmm. Although that was the reason why I joined also was because I wanted everybody to have the freedoms and the rights to do and say what they wanted to say.
So you genuinely had a patriotic bend to joining?
Absolutely.
Because for some reason, I don't associate that with people joining the Army in this modern day, because, and maybe it's because we're so filled with the rhetoric, and it goes back to real America, so to speak. Like, we don't ask people what they really think. We just go off of TikToks and Facebook posts and stuff. And we forget that people really do believe, I believe in my country, or I want to fight for freedoms, or I want to maintain freedoms, and this, that, and the other. And I think we're so, it's just done a number on us the last 10, 15 years or so. It's like we're just so wrapped up in what Mo just said of but we do forget. What was it like for my father being born in 47 and enlisting in 67, I believe it was, or 66. I don't want to get it wrong. But obviously much worse times. My grandfather. And your answer, I think, would surprise people if they had a chance to hear, because I don't think we think that way.
Right.
Know.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, when Colin Kaepernick took a knee. Okay. It was one of the reasons why I went, because I wanted people to be able to express themselves. And majority of the people that, he's taking a knee during the national. Majority of the people in the military didn't get offended by it. The people who got most offended by it is the people who never served. Wow. You know what I'm saying?
But have an agenda, and they have this warped feeling of patriotism.
They exploited him. You know what I'm saying? And that was the worst part about it. And people like me who actually could voice an opinion said, like, he has the right to do that. Right.
That's what I fought for. That's why I enlisted.
No one listened to us.
So that's not offensive.
They listen to everyone else.
So that's not offensive to you?
What?
Somebody who doesn't want to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem or whatever. It
is, but it's not. It's their right.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
See, like, I don't like it, but you have the right to do it.
Can you understand why they do it?
No. No, I don't.
You feel like they should find another way besides not acknowledging the flag, or you feel like they should find another way?
What is their reasoning for not acknowledging it?
Like,
this is your country.
Like I just said, a lot of black people feel like we're in a country who has nothing for us, who doesn't care for us, and so it's like, why should I stand for this?
I disagree with that. Why? I do. I disagree when we start saying, well, this country doesn't care about us and this and that. You know, everybody has issues. Right. You know what I'm saying? But you have to fight through certain things. Like, you know, my mom died when I was 10 years old. I could have easily went another direction. You know what I mean? And I chose to go to the military. I've been married to my wife for 35 years. Like, I could have easily been on the streets selling drugs or robbing stores or whatever, but it was a choice that I made. Right. You know what I mean? So I disagree with that. I agree with what you're saying, knowing that I've probably been a part of that rhetoric in some way or another, because it's just kind of the way it's gone. And, you know, when you're that new generation of whatever, spokespeople, whatever you want to say, but it's a different tenor and tone than the
advocacy and activist rhetoric of 50, 60 years ago, because the Martin Luther Kings of the world weren't saying, we hate this country has nothing for us.
Right.
They would often just say, we have a lot of work to do and it has not fully fulfilled its promise to us. But they would temper the tone that we now have, which is everybody hates us. There's nothing. I mean, literally, you're living in public housing talking about they hate me. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, but you were just in line for Section 8 and somebody made that available to you.
Right.
You know, somebody kept voting for that for you to do this. So I feel like we are very extremist in our language sometimes because that gets the most attention. And we don't even seek balance and I know older, and of course our veterans, but older people in general are like, yeah, it ain't that deep. Like, I hate my country, or I think my country hates me. Right. But I do think that's an issue.
Can you show Coach KJ?
Coach KJ said it too.
Because that's very true.
I agree with that. Like, my first time overseas, I'll put this one, when I went to the Philippines for the first time.
Okay.
And you see people living in Amana refrigerator boxes that refrigerator comes in. Wow. That they put boxes together and that's their house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they climb the pole to get electricity from power lines to light lights in their house.
Now, what does people tell you that happens in America too? Like, have you been to tent cities in California and have you? Well, but it's not to the extreme.
Right.
So many of us are more comfortable, I guess.
They don't have government assistance.
At all.
No.
Right.
Zero. Like, they have no public service to help them get through what they're getting through.
I got you.
You know what I mean?
So this is really what you would consider the best country?
It used to be.
Okay.
It used to be.
I like that answer.
You turn the corner here.
Let's go. Let's get into it.
It used to be, because with the way that there have been people, not non-black people, who have looked out for me and my family, where black people have not. You know what I'm saying? So it can't say these
all white people hate me. Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Where you see black people with something and you're like, hey man, you know, my lights is, you know, my gas is cut off and I need, you know, a couple dollars to, you know, blah, blah, blah. Oh man, I ain't got it. But they going on a trip next week.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where you have that same conversation with somebody else and or a white person, they be like, oh man, I got you. Don't worry about it.
Right.
So
where do you get the used to be from then?
That's how it used to be. But now with the political environment and things like that, and people saying things to each other, like after a Super Bowl, when we hosted at, you know, and you know, you had people come up to me and say, the only reason why Warren has this facility is because it's government funded, and that's the only reason why they have this, and you should be ashamed because we didn't let them stay on the field longer than an hour.
Right.
I told them they had to leave because the soccer team, you should be ashamed. You should be ashamed. Like, why are you talking to me like that? You know?
Right.
So that's why I say it used to be.
People are a lot more vitriolic and a lot more,
I think we know
finger
why.
pointing. Well, no, I think it's a whole. I don't think one person or one group. I think we all contributed, and then someone took that ball and ran with it. And I think what we're seeing is a product of what we have all contributed to in some way or another. I just think that someone capitalized on it more than others. I mean, I balk at blaming any one side because I've seen craziness that.
On both sides.
Well, when you said, how do I feel for to serve a country that don't care about you?
Just that statement.
Just that statement alone is just as bad as them saying that we were government funded. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I don't.
I think with my generation, though, a lot of us we really kind of feel that. You know, we college educated young lady. You know, so if your country didn't care about you, you wouldn't had that opportunity to go to college, right? Realistically, you're correct, but I guess what happens is so much in the media that we can see that I feel like it just makes you feel like this country really does not care about black people. But when you look at other countries, like what Coach KJ said, and absolutely you would be like, it's not so bad. But I mean, it's different.
I think one of my issues is that phrase, care about a group of people, as if we're looking for a certain sentimentality, when really, and KJ said the word, it's actually a sense of shared duty.
Yeah.
And we have a duty to each other. There are some people who take on a much higher level of duty of direct effect, whether it's public service, military service, whatever. But it's not like you have to like me. And, you know, and I think we've become sentimental people.
We are.
Where we are softer, and to use a Dave Chappelle word I use very frequently, brittle, where, again, our forefathers and foremothers like, I don't care if them honkies like me or not, but they got to respect me, and they would still, and I'm saying that in a, I'm saying that's how they would talk. Like, I don't care if that person likes me or not, but they weren't looking for affection.
But I don't think we
and
have
I feel like
that
we're
respect.
looking for affection, and we call it respect, and it's not.
I understand exactly what you're saying, far as you don't have to like me, but you like you.
That's my
respect
grandpa
me.
say. I don't say words like that. Right? That was my grandpa.
But I don't feel like we have the respect either. So I could care less if
Respect
you
of
like
what?
if you don't like me, whatever.
But respect what?
Well, yeah, respect
Just-
what?
I
Don't
get
respect
respect.
us.
Why do you feel?
I
Why
respect
do you
it.
feel that you deserve that respect?
I mean,
I'm asking,
our
what-
people, we fought for it. We marched for it. We should have that respect by now. It's literally, to me, I don't see much of a difference from 19. I mean, okay, I'm not going to go too extreme, but it just seems like things are literally pretty much kind of
Well, I can say like
the
this, Mo.
same.
Just hearing what you're saying, our people, we're not respected. I don't respect a people. I respect a person or persons
Okay.
that I know. And so me, I don't feel disrespected every day.
Right.
And the reason I don't feel disrespected every day is because I walk around with respect for myself and I respect others. And for the most part, that respect is reciprocated back to me.
Right.
Now, some individual who chooses to live a completely different way where they do not respect themselves, they do not respect others, they tolerate behaviors that are detrimental to themselves and the rest of the community, they're often the ones that are the loudest voices talking about our people, our people, our people. Whereas those of us, and even if we do suffer indignities or over for promotions or I get pulled over or whatever, not to say things cannot happen, but it's far less likely to go to that extremes because of that standard of respect I have for myself and for others, that I can handle and process it and deal with it in a much better way than this society of, like I said, over emotionalism, entitlement. I need this.
That's what I was gonna say.
I can act like this, but you better not give me this. And I live in a world, like you said, where because all these folk pay taxes, I drive on roads that are paved, I walk in buildings that are, and we all know the debt, we all know lots of things are going on, but our society is functioning. I go places and get paper stamped to get my social security card, and I do this and I do that, and I can shop and I can do this. And we don't know what it's like to walk in stores where there's no bread, literally, except for when we spaz out because a storm is coming for 4 hours. So we don't know that life. So I think we have like worked ourselves into these extremes.
Right.
I feel like that are more mental and perceptive than reality.
So as you broke it down as like an individual thing. This is a question for both of you. So as a whole, what you think that we live in a country that respects black people?
I think respect is a very, very difficult thing because how do you get respect from someone? You have to know that person to be able to respect them, right? So if you come to me and you're like, yo, wife is blah, 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 blah. Okay. I go home. Like, I don't care if you didn't physically hurt me or physically hurt my wife. So those words I'm not going to let your words control me.
Right.
For somebody else, those would be fighting words, though.
Right. But why?
I get it, but I'm saying for somebody else that would be.
But
They feel like they need to defend their honor.
But that's why when you asked me earlier, like, is this the same country? And I was like, I don't think so.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they talk bad about our people. They shot us with water hoses. They sick dogs on us. They did all these things, and we still fought through that. And that was no respect.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now you can walk down the street and they just look at you crazy. Why are they looking at me like that for? They just looked at you.
But sometimes I ask, even to that point is, I believe that when you talk about no respect in with the world, I do believe that a part of the brokenness of our society is that all we are showing in the media,
Is the
in the
disrespect,
conversation, is the ignorance, is the most extreme people among us. And I believe it's a very impersonal injustice. I believe it's a very impersonal. It's systemic. systems that we're still living under that affect everything from funding to community investment to, it's more systemic than hoods and crosses and you can't ride on a bus. It's more systemic that we're fighting through the shadows of segregation and all of that.
Have you ever seen somebody in the hood before?
Have you ever seen somebody in the hood?
No, in a hood.
In the hood.
Oh,
Have you?
You saw it?
No,
Ku
not
Klux
a person.
Klan,
No, I've never seen that.
I have.
Right.
How did that make you feel? Scared or just?
I don't know if it made me scared. You know what I'm saying? But it was almost like it was, hey, you're going to see this. Because I was born in 1967.
Right.
Like right at the end of segregation and all that stuff like that. So, they were telling me like, hey, this is a possibility that you'll see this one day. So I was prepared for it when I did see it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it wasn't really, as long as I had, Pastor Johnson by me, I'm okay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
it was the black men that, surrounded us and made sure we were okay. But it wasn't, I don't know. And that's the thing, like when you say those things, like I've been through those things when I went to the library and the kid comes out and say, "Who, mommy? He's burnt." You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he didn't know no better.
Now, I grew up in Niles in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, my condolences.
Yeah.
So,
Look, I made a face
really though.
That was a hotbed.
Yeah, it was a hotbed.
Sundown
And
city.
I got called nigga so much I thought it was my middle name. Got
Wow.
Was it the hard R?
The hard R.
Yeah, it was hard R.
So it's definitely better now than what
Right.
it was.
Right.
Is it?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. And honestly, what we come
I
sometimes
feel like
call
it's going back
Going back to where?
to that.
well, no.
How this really plays out because people now have a face to their ignorance.
But
Be
again,
held accountable or not to really just.
I think that our society is in a place now where, and I hate to say it because of the progressivism, wokeism, whatever you want to call it, there is more of a tempered, on the terminology, on the outward things, which sometimes can be slightly dangerous because if you ever talk to people from down south, they would say, I'd rather deal with the way it was down south as far as the openness of knowing who's who.
Right.
And many people who have come up here, up north, like Pop Fowler's told me many stories coming up from Springfield. Dad Troy would tell us how bad it was in Sandusky. Niles. There are places that I still wouldn't want to go. I went to Southington for a while. Newton Falls at night. In different places right here. But there's a more subtle, devious style of racism up here. And I love how the conversation has shifted because it's good because we're talking about what it means to defend your country that you don't feel is defending you. But you made a good point, Mike, in your comment to the comment Mike Ingram put up that respect is more of an abstract word, and I agree with that because, like, what is respect? Yeah. How are you how are you constructing that?
Right.
But equality and equity, which is more like where are job opportunities at? What are sentencing looking like for black men versus white people? How are loans being given? That kind of thing. I can definitely see that as sometimes we feel like we're taking steps back, but on the same token to that, to have come from a people, as Andre says, who have fought through this and at times thrived better. And what we are not talking into the equation is not the respect we're being given, but the respect we give ourselves as a people. That at the end of the day, even with inequality, with people getting lynched,
Right.
there weren't as many people in our community robbing and stealing and killing each other as there was as we have right now, and none of us are in danger of being lynched. None of us are in danger of being chased down the street. Right. None of us are having a dog turned on us, but that will not stop me from shooting another guy for his shoe. And so it feels like we're making somebody else's argument for us, but sometimes that argument needs to be made among us. Is where is our self-respect? Because our parents came up in an era where self-respect meant bunk their respect. I'll live and make the most out of what I have. And we had more businesses, more full churches, more stable families, more black wealth. And it wasn't just some politician walked in the room and said, they got too much, let's all find a way to take it away. Now, they might sort of facilitate, let's throw some stuff in here. The crack war was real, the war on drugs is really real. But there are some things that we gave up. If you leave your door open and somebody throws something in there, You keep leaving your door open, they're going to keep throwing something in there. So I have a problem with that as far as ourselves. And it goes back to being a military, because there's a certain responsibility you have to take for yourself and your brother. And that's what it's all about, you know, watching out for the man next to you. We're not doing that as a people.
Right. So, I mean,
and that's the white man's fault, because if it's a war, we sure ain't fighting on the same side sometimes. If it's a war, we're not being loyal to our own brothers and sisters.
So I see what you're saying. I don't disagree with it, and I see you are agreeing with everything you're saying. But when we use that argument, in some way, are we justifying what others do to us by saying, well, we do it to each other? That's not like justifying.
That's not what I said, though. No, I didn't say it was okay because it happens to each other. I said that we damage ourselves more by what we do to each other than anybody else could ever do to us.
When you say that, you don't think that's kind of still putting some type of justification on it?
No, it's not a justification.
Like when, you know, they say like, oh, a white cop killed a black man, but black people, that's a justification.
I would never say that, though. I've never said that. I said that the bigger issue for us will always be how we view and treat ourselves, because that will determine whether or not we are even properly positioned to fight what's against us.
And if blacks never, just say hypothetically, we didn't kill blacks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And a white guy killed a black person, then we would have more reason to be outraged than saying, if you killed somebody and I killed somebody, you're just killing people.
So we should be less outraged because we do it to ourselves?
No.
I'm not saying less outraged. No, I think wrong is wrong.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fair.
But it's more of a shame for people to do it to their own brother and sister.
It is.
And I view it as more of a shame
I just
than a sin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely agree, but I just don't like when it's brought in comparison.
I get it. How does that, back to the subject at hand, how does that translate into serving country? And I talked a little bit about that loyalty to brothers. So now that guy that came up in your face talking about dynamite, that's the guy you might be in a trench with, or you might have to watch their back. How do you reconcile that? Well, because I think there's a lesson there. I believe there's going to be one.
I was telling you, there was a guy, his name was John Will Barger. He lives in New Hampshire now. But he's from Southern Ohio, and he's like, my dad was in the Klan, and I never knew any black people.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? But he's in my unit, and we stay in the same barracks and everything. And he became one of my closest friends. And that was just because of conversation and then building a relationship with each other. After the relationship, then came the respect.
So you believe somebody who grew up under that can get over it?
Well, he did. At least I felt he did.
That's what they were taught, though. I mean, Pastor preached on that the other week. Like, you know, some people were just taught to believe a certain way. But then once they get out and see the world, then their view kind of changes.
Look at Mike listening to my sermon, man. Come on. Sunday school review.
Right.
I listen sometimes.
He did that old school Sunday school review, Pastor said. I love it. I love your comment, Gooch. You said, I feel like a black person's biggest fear is another black person personally. And I respect that. I believe that a part of that has been planted in us where we've been taught to be our own worst enemies in some ways. We don't have to succumb to that teaching. We've allowed ourselves to in some ways. But to your point, Andre, about being out there in the field, I don't know because I've never been there. There are soldiers who might be able to tell us about it, especially the older ones, that if you are raised with that guy who has racist leanings, or again, they're taught that. That's all they know is what they've seen. When the enemy is coming, are they sitting there thinking about that?
No.
Oh, that's the soldier that my daddy taught me not to like.
Are they thinking?
No, we had the same uniform on.
Right.
We're fighting under the same flag.
Right.
And so I just feel like that's the lesson that military service and some of the higher ideals of our country could teach us. While we are still advocating and activist work, which needs to be done, should always be done, you always fight. But there's still higher ideals that I think we need to stop suppressing and ignoring so that we can be a better people.
Right.
And I think if more boys were going off and becoming men in the military and coming home to their communities, we probably have a little bit more of that, to be frank. And I'm sorry, but even some of the people going off to school are getting indoctrinated with a bunch of woe is me, entitlement, talking through all these high, crazy stuff that is not real life at the ground level because they've never had to put their life on the line. And so one of the ways I live is for the fact that I've never had to be an Andre.
Right.
So I live trying to have a respect and a discipline about myself, and that nobody had to force me. I didn't have to go. My story is kind of weird because I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and there were times when some of the older siblings, and it was a very complicated situation. I don't want to put family business out there, but it was a very complicated situation being in a mixed family because my parents came together with siblings. Some of the siblings got to go to college. Money was low after you started sending them. So 2 of the siblings had to go to the military because that's how they were going to get their GI, and that had to be their path. And I'm the youngest, spoiled brat. I was talking with Pastor Winston. That's what I'm the youngest. I'm back into just getting paid for. But because I know I have 2 brothers that had to go away to get that chance to get that GI, because that's just how life fluctuated, I was grateful. And I wanted to live with a bit of that discipline, knowing I was never going to have to go through a boot camp to go to college. And so I feel like because we've lost the mixture, and you don't see boys in uniform coming back home that much.
You don't.
I walked around with my nephew, picked him up down in South Carolina, Bragg?
Yep, that's in North Carolina.
North Carolina, Bragg. Yeah, North Carolina. Yes, correct. Picked him up, Kelvin Newell, drove him back, stopped in D.C., and you want to talk about like a life-changing experience for this young, and again, total civilian, but I got all these ideals. I think I'm the next Martin Luther King. And now I'm walking around D.C. with a black soldier in uniform. And his mind has changed. And the way people treat him, the respect. And I'm like, this is real. This is real. Like, I know there's a lot of ugliness behind this, but this is, man, we got a whole hotel discount off of this. No, but it was real. But just watching that, I mean, I've had a lot of angry moments and said a lot of angry things and done the Jeremiah right and God D America and that whole stuff. But the whole balance of it is what we make it. And it starts at home. And I wish Andre's experience and KJ's experience could exponentially increase among our young black men and women.
We tell them a lot, like, because we both coach, and we tell them, like, hey, college isn't your only option. This is what the military did for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we do try to get them more involved with the military. Eddie was saying that he wished that more black men or more black veterans were at the Veterans Day parade tomorrow.
Right.
That majority of, they only see white veterans. They don't see black veterans down there. But I was like, man, I got to work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't get down there. But
yeah,
I mean, I probably should, take time out and make sure that I get down there every once in a while to allow young black men or young black kids to see black men down there with a, To
finish up on that, as a veteran, do you feel that the same, because I know they have these VFWs and these things. So just to be simple, do you feel like that's for black folk? Or do you feel like there's not the same comfort, like it just feels a little...
Now, KJ took me to a VFW.
Okay.
And they treated me phenomenally.
Okay.
Now, we were the only 2 people of color in there, but it was good. It was a good time.
Okay.
It used to be segregated VFWs. You had a black VFW, you had a white VFW. Now that they are integrated, I guess, you don't have a lot of us really participating in that.
Right. It just doesn't feel.
Right.
I get it. Would it be go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Would it be better to galvanize more blacks just together, or to try to, in a group or in a better presence, go engage yourself with the existing one? Or do you think it's be more comforting to a black veteran to just be around their own in a way, like the experiences, the camaraderie would just be different?
That's hard because
hard to tell.
We've dealt with so many different cultures before. So, but then you come back to Ohio, like the VFW in North Carolina is probably way different than the VFW is in Ohio. I've never seen a more racist or segregated state like Ohio than
people don't know
any other place that I've been. Wow. You know what I mean? I know we gotta shut this down.
I get it.
But in North Carolina, there's we don't mess with y'all. And you was like, oh, okay, cool. And they don't mess with us. But in Ohio, hey buddy, how you doing? And, they killing you when you ain't
when your
there.
back is turned.
You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I've just never. Ohio is really tough.
Up north, they hide it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they hide it. I just think it's more devious. You know, I think they have more
Yeah.
malicious intent behind what they do when they tell you yes or no. You know what I'm saying? Because even, you know, being with a nonprofit organization, it's almost, well, I'm gonna use game changers to get something out of it for themselves, not for the benefit of what your whole intent is. You know what I mean? So it's tough. It's just really tough in this area.
And I'll be honest, I'm watching closely because they always say one of the great equalizers when it comes to a community coming together is the military. And it's also supposed to be Christianity. But nobody does press releases better than I do and reaches out and makes sure stuff is on the news and in the paper and stuff. And I know white people read that stuff. And for some reason, military tribute at a black church has not yet, and I'm not sure what it'll look like in the future, galvanized the same kind of attention or presence. Because I was just certain that a few white veterans I know were gonna, super saluters, were gonna make their way. But I've lived this as a pastor too. Jesus is supposed to bring us all together.
Right.
Till you gotta drive over the tracks.
Right.
Now, if we're going to there, of course, we're supposed to, you know, but we're just like quietly ignored. And that was my whole intention. Like, and it's a little bit, not to say I'm exploiting this situation and this tribute for that, but it does become a little bit of a thought experiment. Like, okay, let's see what happens.
Right.
Let's see. Let's give it a little time.
We'll see.
We'll see. You know what I mean? And and we hate to have a told you so moment a year from now or 2 years from now, but today's a little telling. You know what I mean? Today's a little telling. But I'm looking for that because
I don't know, because, you know, it was church anniversary today and the dedication all at the same time. So
we've gone downtown, Wilson and I.
okay.
We've gone to all the official channels.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh yeah. We went to the official channel. So it's just interesting to see if what we say, and like you said, the racism up north is low. And I'm not saying it's racist, but it's just easier to ignore it and just say, that's not the main thing. That's not our thing. That's not what we built.
Well, I think they kind of use the slaves ran from the South to go up north for freedom, and the abolitionists are in Ohio and the Underground Railroad, and they help, blah blah blah.
Right.
Yeah.
That could be a whole nother show.
Yeah, be on another show. You got to know your history, how it went. So I mean, I'm loving it, man, and I love what you've shared.
Yeah.
And as a civilian, you know, I want to do all I can to empower and give space for any of our black veterans, and we have so many in our church. And I love the crew. That anything you already know that you guys need. I mean, I don't care what it is that we can build up that. I mean, we almost have to be our own recruiters in a way, you know, and because there's guys, and by the way, and I want to say this because I know it to be true, but I'm sure you can say it, you do not have to be 17 and 18 to enlist.
Right.
There are some people who are like 23, it ain't working out. Like, how old can you be and enlist? I'm just curious.
You can be in your 30s.
So some of y'all brothers, man, and I mean this, like, or you know somebody that ain't, you need to stop acting like it's unthinkable.
Right.
To go, because ain't nothing out in the streets. I mean, this is truth. It's just the truth. And there's cats that I wish, like, after you do your first little bit or you get in a little trouble or you're about to get in trouble, it used to be.
Well,
that's what it should be.
That was what it was.
It was deterrent.
You're not going to jail. We said you got to enlist in the military. It used to be like that, but they don't give that option to kids anymore.
I wish they did. I always say that.
But I'll be honest, I think if we were more intentional about it, because there are ways I can step in as a pastor. There are times when I can, and I bet you if I walked into that JJC or they were getting ready to get bound over and Mr. Elkins could make, I bet you if it was like an in-betweener situation, I'm like, he's talking to a recruiter right now. If he signs these papers, can we work on, because, you know, obviously what they get in trouble for could threaten if they even could do it. I bet, but I think we've stopped being intentional about it. You know, our great-grandfather, and I get it, it was more casual back then, but it was like literally the judge could turn a kid over to a preacher and say, he's going with the preacher, he's going to get him straight, But I think if we were more intentional about having a system, because some of these young cats, and not super young, need to like consider, bro, what's your career path, you know, and what might be able to get you on track. And I know of a few that have gone later in life and it did great things for them.
And you know, we didn't have an opportunity to talk about it tonight, but once you're out in the fleet, we call it, the life challenges are huge at that time.
Right.
Because I went to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, I got off at 4. Right. So I had a lot of free time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of
Stuff you can get into.
That, almost got killed in Compton.
I was gonna bring it up. We didn't get there. We didn't get there, but I know this story. Yeah, he told me.
So we gonna have a part 2 because you can't wrap it up on I almost got killed in Compton.
And the title of
Don't linger.
The part of the part 2 is gonna be I almost got killed in Compton.
Yeah, I did.
But you told me some of that story. And
I
so
almost got killed in Compton, and it was on, just a leave going to see a friend that just got out the military. Me from Warren, Ohio, not knowing about Compton, California. Somebody come up to me, hey, what's up, blood? I'm like, what's up, blood? Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
It's all over.
Right. Or they, in Warren, you say, what's up, cuz? Like, it means something out there.
Right.
But I'm from Warren. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that almost got me killed. So
Wow. Well, you got a story
to tell, man.
But the blood. Organ cue.
Question real quick before we go. I used to go to a lot of high school events, and they would play the national anthem, and I would always feel some type of way when I heard the national anthem, especially during the time when Kaepernick was going through his thing. Now I wouldn't kneel, okay, but I might not take my hat off. I might not put my hand on the heart, things like that. Do you think being more patriotic would help our community?
That goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, I kind of went to the military for people to be able to express themselves the way that they feel necessary. That's what America is all about, right? But I also felt disrespected that I was willing to put my life on the line for you to do that, and you can't respect me enough, your word, to take your hat off or stand still and pay attention to the national anthem. But then when you go back to the national anthem, there's a stanza in the national anthem.
Correct.
That's not
for us.
It's not for us. Right. You know what I'm saying? So they cut that part out, but I'm
gonna tell them to sing all the verses next time. Sing all
every single verse.
Sing all the verses.
So
put your chest on it.
Stand on business.
Put them verses. Right. That's comedy.
Yeah. So
that's comedy. That's a great way of looking at it, and I think that's a conversation to have.
But do you think it would help?
Do you think patriotism would help if black people had more of that old school patriotism that many, because a lot of older ones still do. They have that patriotism.
Yeah. I don't know if we ever get that back.
I don't think if we'll get it back. I think it would help.
I think it would help to answer your question, yes, but I don't know if we'll ever get it back.
I'll say that patriotism is one of, probably not the most important, but one of those base values that our community needs to reinstill. I'm not sure if it ever can, but spirituality, obviously. Christianity, spirituality, but just family values, spirituality, patriotism, hard work ethic. I just feel like it's a collection of them. Right. And honestly, when one or two start to falter, the others come behind. And when one or two get restored, the others come back. Right. So,
because what you were saying, like when we first went to, to war in Iraq the first time, I was like, oh man, it was, in a way, it was kind of good, I felt, because I was like, man, this is going to bring the country together.
Right.
But it didn't.
It didn't. Yeah. It turned the other way.
The Tea Party actually, because we were still in war at that time, and the Tea Party was doing what they were doing, and it totally
went the whole
other way. So that's why I said it's kind of hard.
Right. Man, well, I'm just loving it. I mean, I'm glad it was time well spent. I mean, Joe Rogan does like 4 hours. We only did like an hour and a half.
I can definitely say we here at Religiously Incorrect appreciate you. We loved you coming on the show.
She's about to put herself in the credits. She got her own credits written down. She's about to scroll across the screen. Y'all give it up. And by the way, I didn't say it, but what is your official rank in the Marine Corps?
I'm a corporal in the Marine Corps.
We all give it up for Corporal Andre Clarke.
Thank you.
Senior, we appreciate you. Thank you for the insight. I mean, you've just brought with, intellect and passion, and I think it's a conversation that needs to continue. And as I said before, any support we can give, we got a great group at our church and expanded outside of that, like Coach KJ. So any way we can make that happen, because definitely anything that can better our community, we want to do it. Thank you all so much for watching. Marlon said make sure you go to Applebee's and get them free.
We're not gonna skip.
Listen,
We're not gonna skip to love her. I love all y'all too.
it's
Thank
a good
you.
day. Oh, we love. She says I love me too. Thank y'all for watching. Like, share, comment. I want to say Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans. And okay, Mike, don't forget the 2024 Game Changer Sip and Paint this Saturday. We got the youth session in the morning, the paint party, and then the paint and sip. And I'll be there. Wife and I will be there. As always, trying to stop her from sipping. That's our annual challenge. First lady can't be out here sipping. Why not? Well, we fight every year after we go home.
Don't do my good sis like that. Don't do that.
Listen, but it's been a great night. It's a late night, but y'all enjoy your day. Tomorrow, if you have a day off, just remember why you have that day off. That's all I say. If you have a day off, remember why you have that day off. And do something I do for my boys. I make them thank veterans for their service. If we see somebody with a shirt or a hat on, or especially in uniform, of course, I just taught them, you acknowledge a veteran. You acknowledge that they're in there. Because I believe wherever they go in life, that'll just give them a different sense of respect. RESPECT. Y'all, take care. Have a great night.
See you guys.
Next week.
Peace, y'all.